Hey there, awesome viewers. Before we dive into this super cool story, I've got a quick question for you. Have you ever felt like you didn't fit in somewhere new? Maybe it was a new school, a new team, or even a new neighborhood. Drop your answer in the comments below and let me know where you're watching from today. Oh, and if you love stories that make you go, whoa, then hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single one. Ready? Let's jump in. It was a bright, sunny morning at Lincoln Middle School. The kind of day where the grass sparkled with dew and kids laughed as they ran to the playground before the bell rang. Everything seemed normal, at least that's what everyone thought. But for Jake Carter, the brand new kid in town, this day felt totally different. Walking through the school gates, his stomach twisted like he was stepping into a jungle full of wild animals. Not the fun kind like monkeys swinging from trees, but the scary kind like lions waiting to pounce. Jake wasn't like the other kids at Lincoln. For one thing, he was new, like really new. His family had just moved to this small town a week ago, and today was his very first day at this school. He wore old sneakers that were a little worn at the edges, with laces that didn't quite match. His backpack hung loose over one shoulder, bouncing a bit as he walked. It wasn't fancy, just a plain blue one with a few patches his mom had sewn on to cover the holes. Now Jake kept his head down, his brown hair falling into his eyes. He didn't want to stand out. He just wanted to blend in like a chameleon hiding on a tree branch. But here's the thing about Jake, nobody knew the real him. Not the teachers, not the kids, not even the janitor sweeping the hallway. Deep inside, Jake was carrying a secret, a big one, the kind of secret that could turn his whole world topsy-turvy, like flipping a table full of puzzle pieces. And maybe, just maybe, it could shake up the whole school, too. What was it? Oh, I'm not telling you yet. That's what makes this story so exciting. You've got to stick around to find out. Picture this: Lincoln Middle School was a busy place. Kids zoomed through the halls, shouting to their friends. Lockers slammed shut with loud bangs. Teachers called out, "Slow down," as they tried to keep things under control. The air smelled like pencil shavings and cafeteria pizza. Outside, the playground was a sea of kids playing tag, swinging on monkey bars, or just chilling with their buddies. For most kids, this was home. They knew every corner of the school, every shortcut to class, every spot where you could hide if you wanted to skip gym. But for Jake, it was all new. Every hallway felt like a maze, and every face was a stranger. Jake took a deep breath as he stepped inside. His heart was thumping like a drum. Just get to class, he told himself. Don't make a big deal out of anything. He pulled a crumpled schedule from his pocket. First period, math with Mr. Thompson. Okay, he could do that. Math was fine. Numbers didn't care if you were new or not. They just stayed the same. He started walking, keeping close to the wall so he wouldn't bump into anyone. But even as he tried to be invisible, Jake couldn't help noticing things. Like the way some kids stared at him, whispering to each other as he passed. Or how a group of boys by the water fountain laughed a little too loud when he tripped over a loose tile. He pretended not to hear, but his cheeks got warm anyway. Being the new kid was hard. It was like everyone else had a rule book for how to act, and Jake was still figuring out the first page. Now let's talk about Lincoln Middle School for a second. It wasn't a huge school, but it wasn't tiny either. It had red brick walls and big windows that let in tons of light. The hallways were lined with posters about school spirit and stuff like "Be kind." and work hard. There was a trophy case by the front office filled with shiny awards for soccer, band, and even spelling bees. Jake glanced at it as he walked by. For a moment, he wondered if he'd ever do something cool enough to get his name on one of those trophies. Then he shook his head. Don't be silly, he thought. Just focus on surviving today. The bell rang, loud and sharp, making Jake jump a little. Kids started rushing to their classrooms, their sneakers squeaking on the shiny floor. Jake checked his schedule again, muttering the room number to himself. Room 204, room 204. He turned a corner and almost ran right into a girl with bright purple glasses. She was carrying a huge stack of books, and they wobbled dangerously. "Whoa, sorry," Jake said, stepping back. The girl smiled, pushing her glasses up her nose. "No worries, you're new, right? I'm Mia." "Oh, yeah, I'm Jake," he said, surprised she was being nice. Most kids hadn't even looked at him, let alone talked to him. "Cool, what class you got?" Mia asked, tilting her head. "Math, room 204, Jake said. "Sweet, that's my class too. Come on, I'll show you." Mia started walking and Jake followed, feeling a tiny bit better. Maybe this school wasn't all bad. Mia seemed okay, like someone who didn't care if your sneakers were old or your backpack was patched. As they walked, Mia chattered about the school. "Mr. Thompson's pretty nice, but don't be late. He hates that. Oh, and watch out for the cafeteria meatloaf. It's like mystery meat." She made a face and Jake couldn't help but grin. For the first time all morning, his stomach stopped twisting so much. But that good feeling didn't last long. When they got to the classroom, Jake saw a group of boys leaning against the wall nearby. They were loud, tossing a crumpled paper ball back and forth like it was a game. One of them, a tall kid with spiky hair and a smirk, looked over and spotted Jake. His eyes narrowed like he'd just found something interesting to mess with. "Hey, who's this?" the boy called out loud enough for everyone to hear. The other kids turned to look and Jake's heart sank. He knew that tone. He'd heard it before at his old school when kids decided you were different and that made you a target. Mia rolled her eyes. "Ignore Tyler," she whispered to Jake. "He thinks he's the boss of everything." Now Jake nodded, but he could feel Tyler's stare burning into him. He tried to focus on getting to the classroom door, but Tyler stepped in front of him, blocking the way. "What's your deal, new kid?" Tyler asked, crossing his arms. "You lost or something?" The other boys laughed and a few kids nearby stopped to watch. Jake's hands tightened on his backpack straps. He didn't want trouble, he just wanted to get to class. "I'm fine," he said quietly, trying to step around. But Tyler wasn't done. "Fine, huh? You don't look fine. You look like you wandered into the wrong place." His smirk grew and the crowd giggled again. Jake's cheeks burned, but he didn't say anything. He just kept his eyes on the door, willing himself to stay calm. Mia tugged at Jake's sleeve. "Come on," she said, loud enough for Tyler to hear. "He's not worth it." She pushed past Tyler and Jake followed, his heart pounding. They made it into the classroom just as the second bell rang. Inside, the room was noisy with kids finding their seats. Mr. Thompson, a man with glasses and a tie covered in tiny rockets, was writing something on the board. Jake and Mia slipped into desks near the back, and Jake let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. He was safe for now. But as he sat there pretending to listen to Mr. Thompson talk about fractions, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. Tyler's smirk, the way the other kids laughed, it wasn't just a one-time thing. He'd seen it before. Kids like Tyler didn't stop unless something made them. And Jake, well, he wasn't sure what he'd do if it came to that, not yet. Still, there was that secret, the one nobody knew, the one Jake kept tucked away like a treasure he wasn't ready to show. It wasn't just about who he was, it was about what he could do. Something he'd learned a long time ago, far away from this town and this school. Something that made him different in a way no one here could guess. What was it? I know you're curious. I can almost hear you saying, "Come on, tell us already." But nope, not yet. That's the fun of a story like this. It's like unwrapping a present. You've got to wait for the best part. And trust me, Jake's secret is worth waiting for. It's going to change everything. So what do you think Jake's hiding? Got any guesses? Drop them in the comments and let's see who gets close. And don't forget to stick around because this story's just getting started. Things are about to get wild at Lincoln Middle School. Okay, awesome viewers, are you ready for things to heat up? Jake's story is about to get super intense, so buckle up. Oh, and before we dive in, I've got a quick question. Have you ever met someone who tried to act like they were in charge of everything? Now drop your thoughts in the comments and let me know where you're watching from today. If you're loving this story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Now let's see what happens next at Lincoln Middle School. Jake Carter was just trying to make it through his first day. He wanted to get to homeroom, find his seat, and maybe not trip over his own feet. But trouble, oh, it found him faster than you can say new kid. And that trouble had a name, Tyler Grant. Tyler was the kind of guy who thought he ruled the school. He walked around like he owned the hallways, with a big smirk and a group of buddies following him like ducklings behind their mom. They called themselves his crew, but really, they just laughed at everything he said and did whatever he wanted. Tyler was tall for a sixth grader, with spiky blonde hair and a jacket that looked way too cool for school. He had this way of looking at people, like he was sizing them up, figuring out if they were worth his time or just someone to mess with. And Jake, well, Jake was exactly the kind of kid Tyler loved to pick on. New, quiet, and wearing sneakers that had seen better days, Jake was like a big, flashing sign that said, "Easy target." It all started right before homeroom. Jake was walking down the hallway, his backpack bouncing on his shoulder. He kept his eyes on the floor, counting the tiles to stay calm. 1, 2, 3, he just wanted to get to class without any drama. But then he heard it, a voice, loud and mean, cutting through the noise of the crowded hall. "Hey, new kid," Tyler called out, stepping right in front of Jake. He planted himself like a wall, arms crossed, blocking the way. His buddies spread out behind him, grinning like they knew something fun was about to happen. Kids around them slowed down, whispering and pulling out their phones. Everybody loved a show, and Tyler was great at putting one on. Jake stopped short, his heart thumping like a basketball bouncing fast. He looked up, meeting Tyler's eyes. Tyler's smirk was huge, like he'd already won something. "What's wrong, new kid?" Tyler said, leaning in a little. "You lost, or are you just scared?" His voice was sharp, meant to sting, and his buddies laughed like it was the funniest thing ever. A few kids in the crowd giggled, too, their phones pointed at Jake, ready to catch him looking dumb. Jake felt his cheeks get hot. He didn't like all those eyes on him, staring like he was some kind of zoo animal. His hands tightened on his backpack straps, knuckles turning white. He wanted to say something back, something smart or brave, but the words wouldn't come. His mouth felt dry, like he'd swallowed a handful of sand. So instead, he just stood there, quiet, trying to figure out what to do. Tyler took a step closer, his sneakers squeaking on the shiny floor. "What's the matter? Can't talk?" he teased. His buddies laughed again, louder this time. One of them, a kid with a red cap, said, "Yo, Tyler, this guy's a nobody." The crowd snickered, and Jake's stomach twisted. He hated feeling like this, small, stuck, like everyone was against him. But here's the thing about Jake, he wasn't as helpless as he looked. Deep down, there was something about him Tyler didn't know, something that made Jake different. His jaw tightened, and for just a second, his eyes flashed like a spark in the dark. It was quick, so quick Tyler didn't even notice. But it was there, a tiny hint that Jake wasn't going to stay quiet forever. "Oh, Tyler, you're making a big mistake." Jake took a deep breath and stepped to the side, trying to slip past Tyler. "I just want to get to class," he said, his voice low but steady. He kept his eyes on the hallway ahead, like he could make Tyler disappear if he didn't look at him. Tyler laughed, loud and mean, throwing his head back. "Oh, listen to this guy. I just want to get to class," he mimicked, making his voice all whiny. His buddies cracked up, and the crowd got louder, some kids whispering to each other, others recording every second. Tyler turned to his friends, waving a hand at Jake like he was nothing. "This guy's a total loser, right?" "Right," his buddy in the red cap shouted, high-fiving another kid. The crowd buzzed, and Jake felt like he was shrinking smaller and smaller. But he didn't stop walking. He kept moving, one step at a time, until he was past Tyler and his crew. The hallway stretched out in front of him, and homeroom was just a few doors away. Almost there, he told himself, just keep going. Tyler wasn't done, though. He called after Jake, his voice echoing. "Hey, new kid, don't think you're off the hook. I'll be watching you." His buddies hooted, and the crowd finally started to break up, kids heading to their own classes now that the show was over. Jake didn't turn around. He just kept walking, his shoulders stiff, his heart still racing. When he finally got to homeroom, Jake slid into a seat at the back, letting out a big breath. The classroom was noisy, kids chatting, tossing erasers, ignoring the teacher who was trying to take attendance. Jake stared at his desk, tracing a scratch in the wood with his finger. He could still hear Tyler's laugh in his head, still feel all those eyes on him. It wasn't fair. He hadn't done anything to Tyler. He was just new. Why did that make him a target? But even as he sat there, feeling mad and a little scared, that spark in Jake's eyes didn't go away. It was like a tiny fire burning quietly inside him. Tyler thought he was nothing, just some kid to mess with, but Tyler didn't know everything. He didn't know what Jake was capable of, what he'd been through before he came to this school. And that was Tyler's biggest mistake of all. What do you think's going to happen next? Can you feel the tension building? I bet you're wondering what Jake going to do about Tyler. Got any ideas? Drop them in the comments and let's see who's got the best guess. Stick around because this story about to get even wilder. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming. Hey there, awesome viewers. Are you ready for this story to get even crazier? Things are heating up for Jake, and I can't wait to share what happens next. A quick question before we dive in. Have you ever seen someone get picked on and wished they'd stand up for themselves? Drop your thoughts in the comments and tell me where you're watching from today. Oh, and if you're loving this story, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a thing. Let's go. Days went by at Lincoln Middle School, and for Jake Carter, things didn't get any easier. Tyler Grant and his crew were like shadows that followed him everywhere. They didn't stop picking on him, not even for a second. In the cafeteria, they'd accidentally bump into him while he was carrying his tray. Milk would spill, his fries would hit the floor, and Tyler's buddies would laugh like it was the funniest joke ever. "Oops, my bad, new kid," Tyler would say, smirking as he walked away. Now Jake would just pick up his stuff, wipe the mess off his shirt, and keep going. He didn't say anything back, not yet. In class, it was more of the same. Tyler and his friends sat a few rows behind Jake, whispering mean things when the teacher wasn't looking. "Hey Carter, nice backpack. Did you find it in a dumpster?" one of them would say, and the others would giggle. Sometimes they'd flick tiny paper balls at the back of Jake's head. Jake would feel them bounce off his hair, but he'd just keep his eyes on his notebook, pretending to focus on math or spelling. The other kids in class saw it all, but most of them didn't do anything. Some laughed along with Tyler, wanting to be cool. Others looked away, too scared to get involved. Nobody wanted to be Tyler's next target. But Jake, he was different. He didn't cry or run to the teacher. He didn't yell or fight back. He just stayed quiet, watching everything. His eyes were sharp, like he was memorizing every single thing Tyler and his crew did. Every bump, every whisper, every laugh, it was like Jake was keeping a list in his head. And that made you wonder, what's he waiting for? At lunch, Jake usually sat by himself at a table in the corner of the cafeteria. He didn't mind being alone, it gave him a chance to think. He'd pull out a small notebook from his backpack, one with a plain black cover and pages that were starting to curl at the edges. He'd open it and start sketching, his pencil moving fast across the paper. Nobody ever got a good look at what he was drawing. Jake was super careful about that. He'd tilt the notebook so no one could peek, and if anyone got too close, he'd close it quick. One day, a girl named Mia sat down across from him. Mia was nice, with purple glasses and a big smile. She'd talked to Jake before on his first day, and she wasn't like most of the other kids. She didn't care about being popular or following Tyler's rules. "Hey, Jake," she said, munching on a carrot stick. "What're you drawing?" Now Jake glanced up, his pencil pausing. Just stuff, he said, keeping his voice soft. He angled the notebook a little more, hiding the page. Mia leaned forward, trying to sneak a peek. For just a second, she caught a glimpse of something, a sketch of a person doing a high kick like in a karate movie. It looked super cool with lines that showed motion and strength. But before she could see more, Jake snapped the notebook shut with a quick thwap. "It's nothing," he said, his cheeks turning a little pink. Mia raised an eyebrow. That didn't look like nothing. Was that like a martial arts move? Jake shrugged, stuffing the notebook back in his bag. "Maybe I just doodle sometimes." He grabbed his sandwich and took a big bite like he didn't want to talk about it anymore. Mia didn't push him, but she kept thinking about that drawing. It wasn't just a random doodle. It looked real, like something Jake knew a lot about. But why was he hiding it? That was the big question. As the days turned into weeks, Tyler's bullying got worse. It wasn't just little stuff anymore, like spilling Jake's lunch or whispering mean names. Tyler was getting bolder, like he wanted to make sure Jake knew who was boss. One afternoon, things went way too far. It happened behind the gym in a spot where no teachers ever checked. The bell had just rung for the end of the day, and kids were streaming out of school, ready to go home. Jake was walking alone, his backpack slung over one shoulder, when Tyler and his crew appeared out of nowhere. They moved fast, circling Jake like wolves. Tyler stood in front, cracking his knuckles loud enough to make a pop-pop-pop sound. His buddies spread out, blocking Jake from leaving. They were grinning, their eyes bright with excitement, like they'd been waiting for this moment all day. A few other kids lingered nearby, watching but staying quiet. Nobody wanted to get in Tyler's way. "Time to learn your place, Carter," Tyler said, his voice low and mean. He stepped closer, his shadow falling over Jake. "You think you can just walk around here like you belong? You're nothing, new kid, and I'm gonna prove it." Jake's heart was racing, thumping so hard he could feel it in his chest. He looked around, seeing Tyler's friends closing in. There was no way out, not without pushing through them, but Jake didn't look scared. His hands were steady, not shaking at all. He stood up straighter, his backpack sliding to the ground with a soft thud. "You don't want this," he said, his voice quiet but strong, almost like a warning. Tyler laughed, throwing his head back like Jake had told a joke. "Oh, listen to this guy, you don't want this," he mocked, making his voice all squeaky. His buddies cracked up, slapping each other's shoulders. "What are you gonna do, Carter? Cry? Run home to mommy?" Tyler took another step, so close now that Jake could see the freckles on his nose. The air felt heavy, like a storm was about to break. The kids watching held their breath, waiting to see what would happen. Jake's eyes locked onto Tyler, and there was that spark again, that tiny flash of something Tyler didn't understand. It was like Jake knew something nobody else did, something big, something that could change everything. "What do you think Jake going to do? Can you feel how tense this is getting? I bet you're wondering what's in that notebook and why Jake's so calm. Got any guesses? Drop them in the comments and let's see who's on the right track. Stick around, because this story about to explode. You won't believe what's coming next." Hey awesome viewers, are you ready for the most exciting part of Jake's story yet? This is where everything explodes, and I can't wait for you to see it. Before we jump in, I've got a quick question. Have you ever been super surprised by something someone did, like they turned out to be way cooler than you thought? Drop your answer in the comments and let me know where you're watching from today. Oh, and if you're loving this wild ride, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's next. Let's do this. The air behind the gym felt heavy, like it was pressing down on everyone. Jake Carter stood there, surrounded by Tyler Grant and his crew. Tyler's buddies had formed a circle, their grins big and mean, like they were sure Jake was about to get crushed. A few other kids watched from a distance, their phones out, ready to record whatever happened. The sun was dipping low, making long shadows on the ground, and the only sounds were Tyler's loud breathing and the shuffle of sneakers on dirt. Tyler's eyes were locked on Jake, his smirk sharp as a knife. "You're done, Carter," he said, cracking his knuckles again for show. His buddies laughed, egging him on. Jake didn't move. He stood still, his backpack lying in the dust where he'd dropped it. His hands were loose by his sides, not clenched or shaking. He looked calm, way too calm for a kid cornered by a bully and his gang. That should have been a clue for Tyler, but Tyler wasn't thinking about clues. He was thinking about winning. Without another word, Tyler lunged forward. His arms shot out, aiming to shove Jake hard in the chest, to push him down and make him look small in front of everyone. The crowd sucked in a breath, waiting for Jake to stumble or fall. But then whoosh, something happened, something nobody saw coming. Jake moved like a flash of lightning, so fast it was hard to believe. In one smooth step, he slid to the side, dodging Tyler's shove like it was nothing. Before Tyler could figure out what went wrong, Jake grabbed his wrist with one hand. It wasn't a hard grab, just quick and sure, like he'd done it a million times before. With a little twist, Jake turned Tyler's arm just enough to throw him off balance. Tyler's smirk vanished, his eyes going wide as he started to tip forward. And then bam, Jake spun around, his leg swinging in a perfect arc. His sneaker hit Tyler's shin with a clean, sharp kick. It wasn't a mean kick, not hard enough to really hurt, but it was